been a while since I've done this, I think. I think we're good. Hi folks, my name is Darren. Welcome, seriously welcome back to the channel. It's been quite some time, hasn't it? A lot of things have changed for me, but I decided to actually start doing the odd bit of YouTube thing again, just for fun. And yeah, let's see how this goes. As you guys may know, returning people to the channel, people who subscribe, thank you so much. Subscribe, yeah. I've been through the entire Helix and HX line apart from two items, which is I haven't had a Helix LT and I haven't had the HX effects. But this is my Helix rack. Got my controller down here. And this is my very much not plugged in properly Helix Stomp board. Why did I take this off? I can't. There you go. Oh, I haven't done this in ages. As a fan of all the Line 6 products and a working musician as well, going through the pros and cons of each Helix setup has been something I've been doing since I went Helix. 2016, 2017, I got rid of all my pedals, all my amps, and I just bought the Helix floor. Then I went to a HX Stomp board on a Temple Audio thing, very modular like this. Then I went back to a Helix, then I went to a rack, then I went to this, and now I have them both. It's worth mentioning I've also had a Pod Go in the meantime, but that is not included within what I'm talking about here. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through some of the pros and cons, my top 5 pros and cons of a board like this with something like a HX Stomp XL or a HX Stomp and a Helix rack. But like I said, I've got loads and loads of experience as a working musician with this type of setup, this and the Helix rack as well. And I've weighed up my options about what I think is best for what I do. And here are my main 5 pros and cons about HX Stomp versus rack. It's worth mentioning some of these pros and cons cross over to things like the LT and the main Helix, as well as HX effects, Stomp, that type of thing. So first in my pros and cons list, this is a pro for the rack and a con for this little bad boy here, the HX Stomp XL. And that's DSP. Now I know what you're thinking, yeah, that's a given. The DSP is obviously going to be less on this than it is on the rack. With this particular unit, I've had to make multiple presets for a single band to make it work. Whereas with the rack, I've been able to make one preset that works for one band and probably loads of other bands as well. So with the Helix rack, one of the things I've actually been able to do with that one preset, I've got an acoustic patch on there. I've got a clean, slightly driven main overdrive and then a lead tone as well and a few stomps on and off. Whereas with this, I haven't gone the snapshot route just because of the limitations. I've just basically got 6 stomp boxes and I've got a Pedal Netix external switch here which I've got for a boost, and then this changes the preset to an acoustic preset, and then in the acoustic preset it changes it back to the main preset on this. But in terms of DSP, I can get everything done on one preset on this, whereas with this, I've got to do 2 or 3. But like I said, we know DSP is a limitation anyway. One of the things on the Helix forums on Facebook, people are always screaming about is, we need more DSP. Guys, you don't. Just use it properly, okay? The next thing I'm going to get into, which is a pro for one and a con for the other, is the simplicity of this. And I do mean the whole board in this sense, but we'll get to that. Versus the rack and the LT and the Helix itself. Option paralysis is a real thing. With something like this, the HX Stomp XL and the HX Stomp, and probably the HX effects depending on how you use it. If you just want one preset, or preset for one band, whatever, you've really got to think about those things that you're putting into the preset and really craft your sounds very, very carefully to be able to do the one thing very well. Thankfully, I've been able to make a clean, driven and lead preset out of this with a couple of stomps and the external overdrive here, but we'll get into that. But then with the signal paths on the Helix, the LT and the rack, option paralysis did become quite heavy for quite some time. I could have this amp, I could have this amp, I could do this snapshot, I could do this type of preset. And it all became very non-simplistic, overly complicated where it didn't need to be. Thankfully, I've got it to a point now where it doesn't have to be complicated, but it's taken quite some time to be able to sort of hone the tones in it, where I can have one preset to do it all, but every block is taken up to be able to do that. And the amount of options that you can have with the 2 signal paths and the extra DSP mean that you can do so much and you're chopping and changing all the time. Whereas with this, it's one and done for the most part. Now my third pro versus con of something like the rack or the main Helix or the LT versus the Stomp XL or the HX effects is the integration of other pedals. Now thankfully with something like this, as you can see here, you can put it on a board. I'm just going to unplug this because it's getting inconvenient. So as you can see here, I've got everything on a single board. I've got a volume wah, I've got the HX Stomp XL with the Pedalnetics auxiliary switch. I have got a Warm Audio Centavo, I've got a Digitech drop, and I've got my wireless there as well with a power supply underneath the Choxia 7 and a patch bay as well. So if I did want to upgrade my board, get a bigger board, have more pedals, it's a lot easier to do it with something like this, and I'm only carrying one thing around. So portability is an aspect here as well, but we'll get into that. Whereas something like the Helix rack with the Helix control, the expression pedal, this one's from Mission Engineering, it's the SP1L6. Same with the Helix, same with the LT. They're not small units, so putting them on a big board and having extra pedals dotted around here and there on that board can be big, it can be heavy, it can be inconvenient. Now, anyone on the same Facebook groups that I am, and you've got friends who play with Helixes, and you see the massive boards they have, and they have got external pedals. They have got the Helix, and they've got another overdrive. Hell, I used to do the same thing with my main big Helix and also my rack as well. And I used to have a Source Audio C4 synth on the board. The cabling it was a nightmare. But that is one of the pros and cons of both. Is the smaller one, it's easier to add pedals to, make a bigger pedal board out of it. But this is already quite big, as with the Helix and the LT as well. So my pro versus con number 4 on something like this with the HX Stomp XL versus the rack is, in the bands I'm in, we like to keep a clean stage. Now, with something like this, you can't necessarily have too clean a stage. You know, I've got my guitar cable going in when I'm not using the wireless. I've got the power cable for it. I've got the output to the desk from this particular one. And then on top of that, I've got the cable for my microphone coming down and under it as well to go to the desk. Whereas with the rack itself, specifically, that controller, one cable. So it keeps a very, very clean stage. And sometimes I use my wireless mic with it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use my wireless mic with this. Sometimes I don't. But I've tended to just go cabled these days. But ultimately that boils down as well to the ease of setup. With the Helix rack, I can do one cable in for the controller, one cable, one XLR. The power's already supplied on the back of the wrap through a power strip. Rack power strip. Thanks very much. I did say it's been a while. Versus all the cables of this with the power, I've got going to the desk. Again, the microphone cable coming from under it. I've got the guitar cable when I'm not using the wireless, etc, etc, etc. And number 5 as a working musician for me is the biggest one. So for the last couple of years, I've been playing in bands that do a lot of weddings, corporate events, touring events, that type of thing. And we're usually on stages away from people. There's nobody walking around with a drink coming to ask you to play Dakota by the Stereophonics with a pint over your pedal board. And that brings me to the pro and the con. Con. If someone spilt their pint of Guinness over this pedal board, and someone has spilt pints of Guinness over previous pedal boards, then to replace all this is going to set you back at least £1,000. That's wireless, power supply, Digitech drop, overdrive, wah, and the Stomp itself. Now I know, yes, there's insurance and all that stuff, but hey, we'd rather not use insurance, right? On the other hand, on the used market, you can get one of these for between £200 and £300. And I'm pretty sure that this, being passive, someone spilled their Guinness on it, it'll just need a clean. So I'd much rather a cable and this if I'm doing like a pub gig where someone's asking me to play Dakota, like I said, with a pint of Guinness over this. I know you can get things to cover it all up and stuff, but you shouldn't have to, which is why I've opted to just stay rack these days and stay with the controller. Yeah, it's an extra box to carry because I've got to carry this and I've got to carry the rack itself. Whereas with my smaller pedal boards, I've just got to take that. That is it. You know, obviously on a guitar and a stand, etc. But it's one extra piece of gear to carry with me when I'm taking this. Again, the same would apply for a Helix LT for this, or the main full fat Helix. But obviously then you're looking at pre-owned. The Helix LT, you're looking at £500 to £600 in the UK. The main Helix, you're looking at £700 to £900, even £1,000 in the UK still. And in the UK, again, this whole board will be at least £1,000 to replace if you had to. So I think the controller is probably, for me, the way to go if you're doing like pub gigs and stuff. Costs a bit more for the Helix and the controller, I know, but you get that security out of it where, you know, if it all goes wrong, you haven't got to spend four figures, you know, or at least £600 to get it all, you know, replaced. The HX range, the Stomp XL and the HX FX, you can get pre-owned for £550 and below, I think, at the moment. So that's not too bad. Obviously, you don't want to have to do that. But then when you take into account the Digitech drop, your wireless system, this is the Line 6 Relay G70, overdrive pedal, power supply, it all adds up really. So yeah, that is my top 5 pros and cons of using something like the Stomp XL versus the Helix rack. If there's anything else you wanted to add in as a pro and con, or if there's anything you agree or disagree with, please leave a comment below and we'll have a discussion. Let's obviously keep it friendly, let's keep it banter, let's keep it pro, and I will try and go and respond to every single comment, which I've had a bit of a troubling time doing the last few months, to be honest. There's been a couple of comments on my old videos, but thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers, even though I haven't been adding regular videos to the channel. But that's a thing of the past. We're going to be doing more regular things now. There's more comparisons coming up, more Line 6 comparisons, more demos, that type of thing. So if you want to see some random dude from South Wales demo a bit of gear, talk crap, play guitar, talk guitar, this is your channel. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you again very soon. Bye! Oh, I can still do the high bit. Yes! Hello!
Hi.
She grown, is she?
I'm taller than Daddy in the chair.
You're taller than me in the chair, I know.